What's up, everybody? Steven here with another Q&A. How's your guys' week been going? Still got a couple more minutes till the viewers come in, I guess. And already, Omnomaly comes in with a shut up. I will not, sir. No thank you. Zach, what's up, my dude? How are you doing? Good to see you, my friend. All right. Reiner Van Swyt says hello. What's up, Reiner? How you doing, my friend? Good to see everybody this week. Carl, how's it going, my dude? Modern Vintage, what's up? Yeah, not much, man. Life is good. Miguel, what's going on, my friend? How's everybody doing? Oh, Reiner, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing awesome. Just hanging out. It's another Wednesday. I'm scripting for a couple of videos. Just getting some work done. Otherwise, I can't help it. Be awesome. It's life is great. Things are going really good, and I couldn't be happier right now. Let's see. Modern Vintage says this is a tone cult, and I am a proud member. Yes, yes. I mean, like this is our tribe. This is 100% our tribe. Um, Modern Vintage, yes, yeah. So I got myself a couple of hangers because I was tired of having some of my guitars sitting on the floor too long. So I got a couple more hangers for the Ibanez bass, my ESP, and I got my acoustic on the other wall over on the other side. So yeah, things are pretty good. Giancarlo, how you doing, my friend? Awesome. It's kind of cool because I like seeing the same names kind of popping up week to week. It's good. I like that you guys have a good time hanging out with me on these Q&As. Let's see. Okay, so Modern Vintage, great to hear and see that you're doing well and happy. Can you speak on the projects if allowed? Sure, yeah. So like right now, it's mostly just regular content. Nothing geared towards future plugins right now. So like I'm totally free to talk about them. So like obviously I want to do more tone videos where I'm dialing in tones for of different different artists and stuff like that. So I'm kind of working on like a Mastodon, Alice in Chains, John Petrucci, just to name a few. But I really want to get some bass videos in there too, because I feel like that I haven't been paying as much attention to that as I could. But as you guys noticed, there's the titling of today's Q&A is guitar DI editing. And that was something that I actually kind of want to go over in a video. So at the outset, I kind of wanted to ask you guys if there were things that you find challenging about editing your guitars that I could address. Because, obviously editing is kind of a wide subject. So if you guys had things or problems, issues, or wanted to like try and like get around certain problems you've been having, put them in the comment section. I'd love to go over them and then make a video on them so where I can really dive into the subject more directly. So yeah, if that's something you guys would find interesting, let me know. Anthony Best, those are some serious acoustic panels. Yeah, dude, this place was decked out from the moment I got in. Oh, and let me know if the mic starts. I just got a new mic, so I'm working on dialing it in to not clip with this particular setup. So if it starts distorting or something like that, just let me know. Give me a heads up. All right, yeah, I thought I could do this without my glasses. I need my glasses. I'll just keep them on the bridge of my nose so that way you guys can look into my beautiful eyes without a glare. All right, so, okay. Modern Vintage says, can you speak on keeping transients, their use, etc., when editing seems to be critical? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So that's one question. I posted a video about what are proper DI levels. What do you do? Do you add interface preamp gain to your DI tracks? That's a separate post. Okay, so let me actually let's I'll talk briefly about modern vintages questions. So keeping transients. The transient is probably the most important aspect of the guitar tone. When you start messing with the transients, things start to get a little wonky. So I actually had I have an example queued up. Where are we at? Okay, here we are. Okay, here we go. So we have our lead here, which I have the nollie on. So, and my computer is struggling a little bit. So here's the thing. So like, for instance, so like say if I had a a squawking, kind of squeaky sound in between when I move my hands from note to note. So like, one of the ways that I would kind of address this is like you have the transient here up front, right? So that's like the beginning. So you have like the pick noise and then beginning of the note here, and then you have this long held out note here. Let's say I wanted to like elongate that. Now there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Like in Pro Tools, you have what's called elastic audio, which allows you to stretch your audio back and forth. So let's see. So if you can see, there are these tiny little lines here. It's basically analyzed all of the audio and picked out the transients for you. So you can put down little markers. These are going to be your like anchor points. So what I can do is I can add an anchor point at the end of this note, and then I'll add another one in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this portion of audio to lengthen out to here. So what I'll do is I'll make a cut there. I'll put another anchor here. I'll take this and drag it, because when you start introducing time properties to the transient, starts to get, like I said, kind of wonky. So say I just wanted to stretch this out just a little bit, cover up like a fretty or like a string noise, a little squeak squawk. I'm gonna put a little crossfade here at the end, and that's pretty much all I would need to do. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do this, but basically I wouldn't want to like elongate anything before like the chunk of this note here. So okay. So and then obviously you wouldn't want to like, so going to the end of this edit, keeping the transient for the next note clear is important as well, like this point here. Because you got to know that like from here to here is where the pick is actually hitting the string. Like that's an actual sound, and if you cut that off, it sounds funky. So when always be aware of that when you're working on it. So like you could see, where is it? Okay, so you can see like this is the previous note, because it's going up and down, up and down. And then you see, bam, right here, that's where the pick strikes the string. So make sure that if you're editing, you're not cutting it off right here at the start of this waveform. So that's a good way to start. All right, let's talk about Anthony Best. So back to your question. So you asked, what do I do about proper DI levels? Do you add interface preamp gain to your DI tracks? No, not typically. So what I usually do is I have my guitar going into my Little Labs Red Eye DI box, and then I have that going into my interface, and that's pretty much all I typically use. If you're talking about your input gain on your plugins, however, do and can affect your tone pretty considerably, though. Like, I think that's probably something that a lot of people wouldn't really mess around with, is this input knob. Because obviously if you cut back on the input, you're going to get less saturation, so it might make for a cleaner tone. I've actually been doing that with the parallax. Whenever I need something that's a little bit more clean tone. Is that what it is? Yeah, there it is. So that's my bass tone for this particular part. But say I wanted to, let's actually save this as Spain 2. So let's save this so that way I can go back to it later. So let's say I wanted to get like a really clean DI tone, a clean bass tone for this particular song. And this is the Eurobass 2 by Submission Audio. So like this mid distortion and high distortion, even though I have them on 0, I could still hear it kind of saturating the signal. If you pull back on the input, you're going to get less saturation and therefore a cleaner signal. So that's something that you can do, and you can test it out on the other plugins as well, the Plini, the Nolly, that sort of stuff. So as far as recording goes, though, I mean, most people say like -6, give or take. Generally, you want to put the gain up just about to a point of clipping and then pull back just a little bit. It's just a matter of getting the signal to noise ratio as high as possible. So that way, if you're compressing something, you're not going to get all that noise floor, that hiss that comes with pretty much all our electronic recording. So yeah, so hopefully that helps. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so Carl's asking about quantization during DI editing. So, I guess, I mean, maybe I need to practice more or something like that. I typically don't quantize during editing. I will go through and I'll do editing to the grid. Like that. I feel like some people get those terms kind of confused, but like. As far as like automatically quantizing notes, I typically don't do it because I just don't trust the computer enough to know exactly where everything should go. So I usually try and get everything, like I try to record everything as close as I possibly can, and then I'll go through like note for note and then lock them in that way. So yeah, it's a little bit more time consuming, but I feel like I get a better product afterwards while doing it. So cool. Okay, so Miguel's asking, do you think it sounds good? Do you think the archetype Nolly sounds good with an audio interface and a couple of flat response field monitors? If you compare it with a real amp, yeah, I think it sounds great. So if you guys have ever worked with, okay. I mean, the real question is like, have you ever listened to a recorded amp before? So like, somebody puts like a 57 or a ribbon or something like that in front of a speaker cone, dials it in. Like, I've gotten the experience of doing a lot of recording and a lot of mixing, so it sounds like so close. It sounds almost indistinguishable to my ears, but also like I've already kind of said on some of the Q&As where I care more if the song sounds good. Like I care more if the song is impactful than if it sounds really good. So like if you go back and listen to like if you listen to some of like the old Gojira albums, their mix doesn't sound great, but the songs are awesome. And I love going back and listening to them, even though their mix quality is not as pristine as it is now. Like, you listen to their latest two albums, and they are just immaculately mixed, right? Like, some of the best. But I still go back to those older ones because the power of the song is what really pulled me into the band in the first place, not how closely it sounded to reality. It was just like the impact of the song, the emotional weight of it, and how much it resonated with me emotionally. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes down to it, like, I think the archetype Nolly, the Pliny, the Nameless, the NTS, like, I think that these are all gaining a quality of realism that hasn't really been achieved by a whole lot of companies just yet. Like, I mean, and obviously you can talk about Kemper or Axe Effects and whatever, but like, for the money, spending 150 bucks for a plugin versus 1,500 bucks for a Kemper, this is pretty awesome. So, it's not really much of a comparison. So let's continue on. Okay, so I didn't see your comment until just now. So Anthony Best also says the new plugins are so good that he sold his Kemper. He uses an Apollo 8, and I recommend a DI box instead of a high Z input. Okay, so Anthony, I did cover this in a video that's on the. I'll go ahead and switch back over here. So I did cover that in a video on the page, but I can give you the quick and dirty right now, basically. As long as you have instrument inputs on your interface, it usually will sound just fine. The DI box may give you a small boost in quality of tone, but whether it's completely noticeable or not is up to debate. Because the actual function of a DI box is several things. So you're taking your line level input down to a mic level, passing it through a microphone cable. So there's this thing like 1/4-inch guitar cables will pick up radio frequency interference, right? Like, so anything from electronics to lighting to Wi-Fi signals get into your cable. So in order to send your signal long distances, you run your signal through a DI box through a microphone cable, because the way that a microphone cable is constructed, it's much less susceptible to interference. So that's why if you go to like a recording studio, they're not going to have many like 1/4-inch cables above like 10 feet, maybe 15 feet. Because once you go above that, you start getting a lot more interference. So that's why you would use a DI box. If you need to send your signal over long periods, it also breaks ground loops as well. So if you have like bad electricity in your building and it's creating a ground loop between your pickups and the computer and the socket, then it'll break the ground loop. So there's a couple of good instances to have a DI box, but you can get away with using the high Z input just as well. I mean, like, I would try it out. If you have one available to you, try it, A/B it back and forth, but I'm going to say it's probably not 100% necessary unless you're doing professional grade quality recordings that you want to get reamped later as well. So, cool. Okay, Selek Inal Selek? I don't know. Do you set input gain as higher as possible without clipping, or minus 18? Okay, so yeah, I mentioned this earlier. Yes, what I'll do is I'll dial the input up to the point, and I'm like, I hit the strings way harder than I normally would, just because when I'm playing, I typically play a little bit harder than I do when I'm practicing. So I'm hitting the strings as hard as I can. I dial up the input gain to the point where it starts to clip, and then I back it off again and just keep hammering it just to make sure that it's at like -6, -3 dB. But like, again, as long as it sounds good, it's not clipping, you're good. Modern Vintage says thoughts on using a higher input gain for achieving specific sound. Misha said he does this with his plugin, but his plugin feels and sounds terrible versus Neural DSP or others. Sad but true. Um, yeah, I don't like that plugin. Just I've used it and I thought it was going to be good because it had Misha Mansour's stamp on it. But nothing can be perfect, unfortunately. But as far as like having like just straight input, I mean, obviously you don't want to like. So if you were to see, oh, stop. There we go. so, so you can see. So as I start pushing up the input, you start getting a lot more saturation, a lot more distortion, and I don't like getting that clipping up there because that means it's actually clipping the DI on the way in, which is not good. So don't do it. But you did hear that the riffs start to get a little bit cleaner and more discernible as you start dialing back the input. So it's that balance you have to strike between saturation and clarity. So like if you start boosting up the gain way too much, then it's going to become really fizzy and really kind of gross sounding. So yeah, definitely boost up the input when you can, when it's applicable. So if you record your DI, maybe somebody else records your DI and they don't have the input gain up high enough, then you can push the input gain up. You will have a higher noise floor, but I can go over ways to deal with that as well in the DI editing section. So in the DI editing video that I kind of want to do. So yeah. Okay. So the first part of that question that I just answered, input gain set too high is usually when it makes plugins feel and sound artificial and metallic, right? I mean, like, so it's a matter of how the algorithm deals with the signal. Like that's why I don't like clipping the input, is because it's not meant to clip. Like it's not like a clipper plugin that is meant to actually clip, because it has like the algorithm that's meant to do that. When you clip a DI on the way into your plugins, you're just going to get really nasty distortion. It's not going to sound good at all. So, but yeah, so that would definitely make it sound artificial metallic. But I'm not sure about other plugins at the moment. But let's see. So Reiner says, when it comes to quantizing things, everything is just on grid and loses timing. If you manually do it, you can align with drums, and you'll still maintain feel. Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Maintaining feel is definitely like I think that's what a lot of people really are worried about when you're quantizing, because that's generally the thing that people kind of complain about with quantizing, is that it loses feel. It makes it feel too machine gun or metronomic or machine like, and there is a balance to those two as well. Like I'm all about making things sound. I'm all about making things sound in line with each other, because I mean, like a sloppy metal band just sounds like shit. Like if your DIs aren't lining up with your bass isn't lining up with your kick, like that sort of stuff just doesn't sound good. Like there is room for feel, especially when you come to like leads and stuff like that. You can have feel. You can have people be, just like lagging on the tempo or pushing the tempo forward, and it does convey that emotionality. But there is always a balance to those sorts of things. You wouldn't want to quantize everything up to grid. 100% because then it just doesn't feel right. But also you don't want everything to be super laggy and slack, So it's definitely, hitting that balance is really important. Anthony Best is a torpedo reload. He's asking if you can use that as a DI box. I don't know. A torpedo reload. Let's look at this. A power attenuator, multi-impedance load box, a DI, and reamping box. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like you could use that as a DI. It probably has a DI out. But check the line in. I don't know. Check the specs. I think that you could. Yeah. Yeah, so there's actually a DI out on the back of the torpedo reload, so you could use that as a DI. But, I mean, like, that's probably not going to add a ton to your signal or clarity. So, cool. Give it a shot. A/B it. Let me know. Tag me in the Facebook group. I'd love to hear about this. Because there's so much about, like, the different products and things that I don't particularly know. So I would love to know if that's a viable solution to somebody else who might have that. So yeah, tag me in the Facebook group and let me know if that sounds good. So Modern Vintage says, regarding the Kemper, even STL support told me a plugin version is a much more accurate representation than their Fractal and Kemper versions. I have them across all 3 platforms and agree. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I mean, I guess it's probably has to do with processing power, maybe. But I mean, like, they're basically mathematical models, and you're using your CPU to compute that. So yeah, that's awesome. Reiner says, oh yeah, okay, so Reiner Van Swyten also says, also I tried the Misha plugin and it's so hard to get a good tone out of it. It takes so damn long and so much post-processing. Tried Nolly and I had a vision of a tone and had it under a minute. Yes. Yes. Dude, yeah, I'm 100% with you. I also got the Misha, and I was able to get a workable tone. I wasn't happy with it, but I was able to get a workable tone. Now, this is like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that, before I worked with Neural. But I got the Misha, and then I got the Nameless, and I knew I was never going to use anything but Neural DSP products after that. So, yeah, so the Misha's not, it's just collecting dust. And it's unfortunate because Misha is a great dude. I actually have his precision drive pedal. It's pretty dope. I don't use it much anymore, but I have it. But no, he's a good dude. I really like him. I really like what he does, and I hope that he can get a good plugin soon. That'd be really cool. All right, cool. Following up on his previous question or previous comment, Modern Vintage says Doug is seriously doing something different than others. I still have a Kemper and XFX 3, but compared to Neural plugins, the top end is artificially pronounced and the bottom thin. Man, yeah, no. So it's definitely, it's Doug, it's Francisco, it's the whole team. Like, I can't stress how grateful I am and how lucky I feel to be working with the group of people I am right now. Like they are the best in the business, and I I just want to keep up with them at this point. I do my best, and I feel that it's a responsibility for me to represent the company as best I can because they put in so much work. Um, and I love seeing it. I love seeing that you guys enjoy the product as well. I think that that's awesome. So, okay, so Modern Vintage continues on. Regarding feel, something I've noticed only Neural has is body and depth to the feel, like real amps. Other plugins just have decent latency. It seems to be confused with feel for most players. Yeah, I mean, like again, it sort of comes down to like the mathematical model and how representative it is to real life. Like, um, if you have the best, if you have the best model, then you have the best representation. And Neural does it in such a way that it's just so good. Um, like seriously, I have like I think I've mentioned this in the Facebook group before. Like I have this Mesa Boogie dual rec. Like I'm probably never gonna use it. I'm probably gonna end up putting it up on eBay pretty soon. So yeah, like I just don't need it anymore. Um, Vineeth Srikumar says he has a small suggestion for the Neural DSP plugins. It would be nice to have a tuner built in. He uses the archetype Pliny in standalone all the time. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I know that the guys are working on a lot of updates right now. So I know that that's currently in the works. So that is on its way. And so the the guys at Neural definitely do pay attention to the comments. I'm sure there's actually some of them watching the live stream right now, in fact, because they're a company that likes to listen to their fan base. You know, like why wouldn't you? It's like they have to know where they need to improve, so they're going to listen to the people who actually invest in their company and enjoy their product. So yeah, every time you guys bring this up, like I encourage you, talk about it, post about it, like because the tuner is something that I know that they're going to be coming out with. Um, I'm not sure exactly when, but I know that they're currently working on updates for, I think, I think most of their products right now, if not all. So yeah, so like updates are coming. Okay, so Reiner says nothing bad against Misha or Joey. I know Joey makes great plugins and he loves Misha. Also, not pandering to us because he still loves other amp synths, and that's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm nothing nothing bad against them from me as well. Honestly, like Joey does make some good stuff, and Misha. I mean, Misha's great. I love Misha. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Let's see. So modern vintage chimes in with let's get Misha to join Nolly and come to the winning team, Neural. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on with that. But I know that there's probably going to be some more interest because Nolly made such a successful plugin because it sounded so good. So I'm sure that there's probably going to be a lot more artists that are going to be interested in working with Neural. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I know generally what's coming up, but you know, I'm excited for where the next 6 months to a year are gonna land us. So yeah, Erikov says we could use some extra pedals in the nameless plugin as well. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not sure the specifics of the updates, but we'll see. We'll see what they wanna do with that. Modern vintage, gosh. Um, let's turn off. I don't know if I could do that. All right. Let's see. Okay. Where was I? Modern Vintage is asking, is your Mesa a Rev F? It's a dual rectifier. I actually put it in the other room, so I can't like that's how long it's been since I've used it. I just know it's a dual rectifier. That's where my brain is at this point. Angel Morias asks, can you post a screen about your Apogee Maestro config? Thanks. I actually don't have the Apogee. I have the Scarlet, but if you're asking about the um, if you're asking about my streaming settings, that might be what you're asking about. So if you want to clarify, then let me know, because um, it's kind of a weird setup that I have right now. But yeah. Okay, Erikov, how about we get Yari on the team for his signature archetype? We'll see what happens, man. Um, Modern Vintage, best insights or tips you've learned from working with Neural? That's a good question. Um, let's see. So best insights or tips? Hmm. Neural is probably one of the, and this is my perception. Like I feel like this is probably true. I'm sure that there's other companies that work hard as well, but like Neural, from what I can see on the outside, is one of the hardest working companies around making plugins. I mean, like they're always at their office. Like it's pretty crazy. Um, Modern Vintage, I'll get back to you on that. I'll see what's up. Um, hit me up on Facebook or something, and we'll talk. Um, and I'll let you know what I have. But anyway, back to the question. So if I'm talking about things that I've learned, is that it doesn't hurt to have people around you that work as hard, if not harder, than you. Because I feel like you need people that are going to be able to push you to excel. Like I think that like I'm sure somebody else said it, but I heard it from Gary Vee. It's like um, like you are the average of the five people you hold closest to you, something along those lines. But basically, it's just saying that the people around you will influence you to do certain things, right? Whether it's active or passively influencing you, it's still influence, and you should be surrounding yourself with people who are going to push you to excel, um, and to make the best absolute product that you can. Um, and that's something that I've learned pretty considerably over the last 2 years or so, because I mean basically I went from no job to some minor editing positions. I took on an assistant position with an engineer here in Los Angeles. Eventually, he had me move down to LA from Sacramento, which is where I'm from. Um, and it was all because like I had people around me that pushed me to be better, and Neural DSP does that. They are constantly pushing me to be better, even if they're not actively asking me to be better. I feel like it's my responsibility, just because I see the work that they put in, and I want to never ever lag behind. I never want to be the weak link in the chain. So I'm always going to try and up my gain as much as I possibly can, so that way I can keep stride with the others. So that's probably chief among like the chief insight that I've probably gotten, is that they work hard, and I'm going to try and work just as hard for them. So yeah. Okay, great. Reiner says maybe in addition to a normal tuner, a strobe tuner would be cool. I can see you guys not doing that because there are not many people doing it, but I thought I'd mention it. It'd be interesting. You know, I know that I mean, well, I don't know the details of the updates that are coming, so I couldn't speak to whether they are going to be like that or not. So we'll see. Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, great. Let's see. So rather, okay. So he's asking me, rather than he's asking about misconceptions about tube amps that I've come to learn after working with Neural. Matthias, what's up, dude? Not much. We're just chit chatting. I showed a couple of editing things, and we're just talking life, the universe, and everything. All good things. Let's see. So modern vintage. Are there any misconceptions about tube amps that I've come to learn about working with Neural? I don't know. You know, I mean, it's funny because I feel like I've actually gained a deeper understanding of tube amplifiers just by working through the Neural DSP plugins. Like, I'm more knowledgeable now about how I would dial in a physical amplifier than I was when I first started. Yeah. Yeah, so like if you put me in a room with like a handful of amplifiers, I could look at them and go like, okay, I know the orange is going to sound like this, I know this is going to sound like that, like a Bogner or the 5150. Like, it's made me so much more knowledgeable about these things when I wouldn't say I wasn't knowledgeable about these things, but like I now have an intimacy of knowledge that I didn't have before, coming onto the Neural DSP boat. Um, and part of it was just kind of like ignorance. I had my Mesa Boogie, so I was like, I don't need to worry about getting anything else. I just have my Mesa, and that's fine. When really like now I know the characteristics of certain amplifiers would have actually been so much more, I don't know, appropriate for my style. But yeah, so it's like I've kind of gained a level of knowledge before, a level of knowledge I didn't have before working with Neural DSP. So not exactly misconceptions, but yeah, just like a depth of knowledge that I didn't expect to have from working with plugins. So Erikov asks, when are the updates scheduled? They're coming out pretty soon. I'm not sure the exact release date. We'll see what happens, but it's coming on. They're gonna be up pretty soon. Tyriano. Hi. His name is whatever. it's, it's so stupid. I love it. I love it. Anyway, so cool. All right, so we're in the last 12 minutes or so. So I got some good stuff to go over with the DI editing video. I plan to make some good questions to address. But if you guys had any additional questions or things you were curious about, let me know. Modern Vintage says, thanks for the education along the way. Everything you're saying about knowledge is what I've learned from your videos and such. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. No, I mean, like, that's why I'm here. Neural DSP wants somebody to represent their company and be helpful, knowledgeable, educational, and entertaining. And I hope that I'm fulfilling all of those things. So, like it means a lot that I still have so many people hanging out on the stream with me right now, and it's great, and I love it. I want to thank all of you guys for hanging out, like week after week too. Like, I keep seeing all the same faces, and I love it. So, yeah, cheers. All right, so let's see. Any more questions? Any more questions? Modern Vintage says Tyrion O speaks English like his icon. What's his icon? I can't even see from here. It's something ridiculous. I don't know. Anybody who says his name is Mr. Dover, it's pretty good. It's clever, real clever. But cool. All right. Let's see. Did I miss any questions? Yeah, last call. We got any more questions going on? So Reiner says he would love a Rebea archetype for the insane ambient tones. Maybe get to model the Strymon Volante. Also, heavy riffage tones from amps like Victory would be kind of unique. I agree entirely. I've been a big fan of Rebea's videos for a bit now. I think it was I think I heard like Tosca first. Yeah, I think it was Tosca that I heard first. So, I'm a big fan of his, and I know that that's something a lot of people are asking for. And I mean, I fully endorse it. If he ever wanted to do it, I'm sure Neural would be into it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, because I'd love to be able to play a Rebea amp. I think that'd be dope. All right. Erikov asks, how and where do you start when you dial in tone? Okay, so typically I start with the impulse responses. I mean, it's sort of dependent on what tone I'm going for. Like, I'm going to assume that you're asking about, like, metal guitar. And impulse responses are generally the first thing I go to regardless of tone. Because that's where, like, that's going to be, like, the main flavoring of your signal, what impulse responses you use. And then from there, it's either a crapshoot on whether I go to the head or the pedals first. So yeah, I mean, like, if you like, I can even show you a little bit how I would do that. So let's take a look at a couple of these guitars. So this is a riff I wrote several months ago, and it's mostly 8-string guitar. So let's go ahead and dial this in again. I use my BFR Division preset. I like that one quite a bit. If you want that, check out my preset folder. I usually post it in the chat. So let's go ahead and start from scratch. Default. Okay, so as I said, start off with just going through impulse responses. With the Nolly, it's kind of cool because you have the 4 cabinets, so I'll flip through the cabinets first to see which one gets me in the ballpark. And again, like, I saw it beforehand, but I still like the tone the best there, so I'll go to my impulse responses and see what I can do from here. Okay, so I like the 57-57 combo, and I didn't really particularly like the other, the 421, 414, or 160 because they made the signal a little bit too dark. So, but I don't want it to be very scratchy either. So I moved the mic positions just out enough so that I got rid of that scratchy sort of sound. Now, I think one of the things that people generally tend to mistake for high gain tones is they put the gain up way too much. So what I'll do is I'll start off with the gain knob and work with that. So I'll get it to the point where that upper mid-range starts to kind of break up, because that's generally where I like it, because again, it's that balance between distortion and clarity of the notes that are being played. And when you're doing 8-string guitar riffs, like you got some really low frequencies to contend with. So I'll do that. And to my ear, I'm thinking, well, maybe I might be able to tighten up the sound a little bit while using one of these overdrive pedals. So let's try out this one first. And so far right now, I like the overdrive 1 pedal the best. It's maintaining that sort of clarity, but pushing the notes just to that point of saturation and breakup that I kind of like. So let's keep going. From here, I will go back to the head and start working on dialing in the tone from here. So that's generally where I would kind of let it sit. But that's how I would go about dialing in at least a tone for this right here. So it's sort of a balance between the things. You have to think about it like there's a starting point, yes, where you're taking the impulse responses, right? And then from there, you look at it as the entire signal and where is it getting saturated? At what point is it getting saturated, and how much saturation is being applied to it? You know, what is the particular component? How is it influencing the signal? Is it brightening it up? Is it lower? Is it making more bassy? That sort of thing. So being cognizant of where the signal is at what stage. Like so we have the input level. It's at 0, which is fine. Overdrive 1, I wanted to brighten up the tone a little bit, and a little bit of the drive. Now, so here's the thing. I brightened up the tone, I brightened up the drive, but to counteract that and keep it from being oversaturated, I actually pulled the level back from the overdrive pedal. So that way the signal going into the head wouldn't saturate as much with the current gain setting. That's a lot. That was a lot. That was saying a lot. So that was my way of balancing that out. So I get a little bit more saturation on the front end and less saturation as it goes to the head. From there, I went to, like, you can get your high, your mids, your lows, and the next point of saturation is like, yeah, you can. So you have like your EQ balances and stuff like that. Your master fader is basically, like, I treat it as a tilt EQ, where the higher you go on the master volume control, you get a little bit more saturation, but you also get a lot of warmth. So I backed it off just a little bit so I can make the sound a little bit cleaner. So let's go ahead and listen to this by itself, this master volume control. So you can hear how that's affecting that tilt. So once you get up to like 9 and 10, it's so dark and muddy, which is great for some other styles of music for sure. And I've used that before, I think on some like lead guitars where I wanted it to be warmer, so I bumped up the master volume control. But for this style, I wanted it to be bright, clear, and kind of cut through the mix. So I actually backed it off to, I think that's 4. But yeah, and then I took the EQ and I made some very, very subtle adjustments, because mainly I got it pretty much where I wanted it to be from here. So yeah, I got it pretty much where I wanted it to be, and then the EQ setting. So yeah. All right. So all right, let's go ahead and start wrapping it up. Modern Vintage says as laptop processing power increases, it seems the likelihood of plugins being on stage is much more likely, since hardware-based boxes are limited and outdated quickly to modern laptops. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in complete agreement with that. I think that you're going to find a lot more people using laptops on stage nowadays, because, again, like, the technology is getting to a point where it's like it's I wouldn't say that it's making like physical amplifiers obsolete. I think there's always going to be a need for those sorts of things, but I think that it's making that much less viable, or much less necessary. We'll say necessary. Yeah, because it sounds great. All right, so Modern Vintage asks, just wondering, since Nolly and Ola sent their heads to Neural, how did they capture the impulse responses so well? Did Nolly do it in his home studio like in the video? Can't see them sending cabs in. Yeah, so Nolly did send his heads, but he did all the capturing of the impulse responses himself in his own studio. Painstakingly captured so many impulse responses. Like, it's insane. Like, so think about it like, like I pull up the plugin, and I go to the impulse response section, and I just move these microphones around willy-nilly wherever I want them to be. That doesn't happen in real life. Ever. So I did that live video. So I did that live video like a month or two ago. I don't even remember when. But I did that live video, and that took me a good like half hour, 45 minutes to dial in my 2 microphones to sound good. Like, it was a bit, and it was a lot of trial and error. So like, just being able to open this stuff up and just have this readily available to you is it's so nice. It's so convenient. So yeah, Jay Isaacs asks, how do I get a sick metal tone on the Nolly? My tone is too scratchy. It could be your pick, as much as it is the anything else. Could be your pick position. Then he continues, what is the best preset for metal on the Nolly? I love the presets, but my quality can be better. Basically, I'm just recording a clean track and then adding the plugin, the Clean Dreamy on Pliny is fire. Yeah. Yes, it is. The Clean Dreamy is awesome. Yes, I got your question. How do I dial in my guitar on Nolly for a cool metal tone? I mean, it depends if you're 6-string, 7-string, 8-string guitar, but I mean, like, I would say probably one of my favorites, and what seems to be a favorite for a lot of the folks here. Let's see, am I still? Yeah, okay, we're doing that. Artists, Factory, Nolly. The Blood Eagle seems to be a particular favorite for a lot of people. Let's see, the Vulgar Display. I really like the Vulgar Display. Prog Metal Rhythm is okay. Metal Rhythm's all right. So if you're having difficulty with like scratchiness, it could be that you're using active pickups. I mean, maybe. So generally my go-to whenever I'm working with somebody else's presets is I'll start messing around with the input knob. So if it's really scratchy and there's like a lot of distortion, you can pull your input knob back just a little bit and see if that clears up some of the saturation from your signal. So cool. Let's go ahead and last call, 4 questions. How also Jay Isaacs, if you check about maybe 20 minutes ago in the video, I don't know if you were here or not, but I dialed in the tone on this particular song. So I go through my step-by-step process on how I approach it. So check that out once the video uploads, and hopefully that helps you out. So yeah, go ahead and go last call and see if anybody has anything else that they would like to know. Let's see where we at. Vineeth says, thanks for all the information. Great video. My pleasure, man. It's a lot of fun. Modern Vintage, any upcoming guests? We'll see. I got a couple of things I'm working on right now, but we'll see what happens in the near future. So I'm just kind of waiting on hearing back from a couple of people. So yeah, and awesome. Jay Isaacs asks, are these Nolly plugins good enough for metal and I can just add the preset on a clean clip? Yeah, absolutely. Guitar straight into your interface, record that clean DI, and then put the Nolly in, and then just start messing around with the settings. Yeah, go for it. I would say that I've been able to come up with some really, really great guitar tones with the Nolly, and I think that the metal stuff is really, really great. Thanks, man. So Jay Isaac says he loves the plugins and we're the best. So yeah, I appreciate it, man. That means a lot to me. Great, awesome. Modern Vintage says, thanks again for the stream. Francisco's latest podcast was great and he really enjoys them. Yeah, no, awesome. I love the podcasts. I love the conversations, and getting to like hang out and talk with these people is so awesome. So hopefully I'll be able to get in and talk to a couple people as well pretty soon. I know we have some more upcoming. So with that, I will go ahead and call this an episode. So you all have a fantastic week, and I'll see you all in the next video.